Have you ever been in that moment? You know, that moment of absolute predictable safety.
Hmm.
Maybe you're driving a familiar route, empty
Mm.
street, or you're lying in bed, the lights are out, and you're just about to fall asleep.
Hmm.
And then just bam, your mind conjures up a complete catastrophe.
Right.
And it's not just a passing thought, is it? It's this sudden, intrusive feeling of terror. You vividly imagine a shocking accident, or you picture someone bursting through the door.
It's an incredibly unsettling experience
Yeah,
because it's a moment of acute physical fear that's generated entirely inside your own head.
exactly.
And it's often over something that has absolutely no realistic possibility of happening in that exact second. You feel that adrenaline spike, that jolt, and you just have to ask, why is my own brain trying to scare me half to death?
Well, that invasive, frightening feeling is exactly what we're diving into today.
Hmm.
Because the sources you shared with us reveal is that this isn't just, random anxiety.
No, not at all.
Nor is it some kind of failure in your cognitive system. It actually points to a very specific, very deep-seated function that is critical for our survival.
And that's our mission in this deep dive. To really unpack the brain's built-in danger simulation system, we're going to try and understand the mechanism behind that involuntary internal horror movie.
And really define why our minds are so good at this.
Exactly. Why they conjure these terrifying, often impossible scenarios. It's a fascinating look at how the brain uses fear as, well, its ultimate form of preventative medicine.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the core idea running through the sources is that humans possess this sophisticated built-in defense mechanism.
Yes, and it's constantly running worst-case scenario drills in the background.
And it's not voluntary, right? You can't just switch it off.
It's genetically hardwired. Scientists call it threat simulation, and it operates largely below the level of your conscious thought.
Okay.
And what's really crucial for you to understand here is that its primary intent is not to induce fear just for the sake of it.
It's not some kind of cruel cosmic joke.
No. Its singular evolutionary goal is survival training. According to the research, this whole process helps ensure you have a rapid, optimized response if a real threat ever shows up.
Survival training through terror. I mean, that's a tough concept to swallow.
Yeah.
So when I suddenly visualize a horrific car crash while I'm driving, or I picture something really shocking.
Like an explosion at the door, which the source materials mention.
Right, that is genuinely my brain running a high-stakes practice drill. It's optimizing my system without my permission.
Precisely. Think of your brain as this highly efficient, maybe slightly paranoid military strategist.
Yeah.
It knows that real-world threats are sudden. They don't give you time for, measured analysis. So it runs simulations of the absolute most extreme situations it can imagine to prepare your physiological system. It's basically a fire drill where the fire feels terrifyingly real.
But why the intensity? That's the next obvious question. Right? If this is just training, why does the brain make these simulations so overwhelmingly terrifying? They don't feel like a low-stakes rehearsal. They feel like a 5-alarm, high-budget internal horror film.
Well, the intensity isn't an accident. It's actually the core mechanism of the training itself.
Yeah.
That high intensity serves a very specific and critical function. The sources call it testing boundaries.
Testing boundaries.
The brain isn't just visualizing the event. It needs to see a genuine, comprehensive reaction from your entire system, physical, chemical, all of it.
So it's not enough to just think, oh, that would be scary. It has to actually hit the panic button to see what happens next.
Absolutely. The brain is running internal diagnostics on your deepest, most primal behaviors under extreme pressure. It has a sort of checklist of reactions it's evaluating in that microsecond of panic.
And what's on that checklist? What is it looking for?
It's essentially asking, when faced with this immediate simulated threat, what does the body do?
So the classic reactions, flee, freeze, or confront.
That's right. It's evaluating that 3F's response. Do you flee, showing that impulse to escape? Do you freeze up, sort of experiencing temporary paralysis? Or do you confront the threat, triggering an aggressive defense response?
And the simulation needs to be scary enough to just bypass all rational thought.
Exactly. It has to hit that primal limbic system response to be a useful test.
That makes the process sound incredibly sophisticated, almost like predictive modeling. The brain is doing a fear test without permission, and the outcome actually dictates your future behavior.
That's the critical takeaway from the source material. Based on that simulated reaction, the chemical rush, the behavioral impulse, the brain starts to build or shape the behavior for a future real-world event. It's literally optimizing your response strategy.
So if the simulation makes you freeze up too much,
The brain might subtly adjust pathways to favor a faster flight or fight response if a similar real scenario ever happens down the line. It's a closed-loop system of refinement.
So it has to crank the dial up to 10.
It has to ensure the physiological and behavioral response is so sharp and so memorable that the pathway becomes instantaneous.
Right. If it was calm, it wouldn't work.
It would just be an intellectual exercise. It wouldn't create that necessary biological imprint, the rush of cortisol and adrenaline that you need for quick, life-saving action when the danger is real. The terror is the training mechanism.
But this raises another question. If I'm simulating something really specific, a bizarre scenario with a sound I haven't heard in years and a place I've only ever seen in a movie,
Yeah.
where is the brain getting this content?
Yes.
Especially if it's something that's never happened to me before.
This is where the genius of the brain's internal architecture really comes in. It has what you could call an unconscious data collection system.
There.
The scenarios we fear, even the really fantastical ones, are not just pulled out of thin air. They're built piece by piece from a vast stored archive of information you've collected without ever consciously cataloging it.
So it's less like a neat mental hard drive and more like a massive, unorganized surveillance file I didn't even know I was keeping.
That's a great analogy. This archive has every fragment of sensory input your brain deemed potentially relevant to survival. We're talking about sights and scenes you observed even for a second.
In your peripheral vision or on the news, maybe?
Exactly. On the news, in movies,
Yeah.
just walking through an unfamiliar city. It includes sounds you've heard, bits of conversations you've overheard, old situations you or even someone else experienced that had some emotional weight to them.
So let me get this straight.
Mhm.
If I saw a movie with a bad car crash 10 years ago, and then last week I overheard someone talking about faulty brakes, and today I'm driving past a certain kind of bridge, the threat simulation system can take all those separate fragmented inputs, compile them, and then use that as the storyboard for my current moment of panic.
Absolutely. It's extraordinary creativity, but all in the service of protection. The brain is taking that overheard conversation, mixing it with the visual memory of, say, a dark staircase from a vacation, adding the sound of a creaking door from an old house.
And deploying it all in one single, terrifying, simulated moment.
And the sources emphasize that this ability to synthesize these fragments into a cohesive, visceral narrative, it just shows the incredible power of the mind to create a functional reality from data points.
And it uses unconscious data because our conscious thoughts are just too slow.
Right. Precisely. Conscious memory, our worries, they're all filtered and intellectualized. The threat simulation system needs raw, unfiltered input to create the most realistic and rapid tests. It bypasses our filters to test our genuine limits, not just our intellect.
Which brings us full circle, really, back to that paradox from the beginning. We ask why our minds try to scare us.
Yeah.
And the answer, when you look at it this way, is elegantly simple and fundamentally protective. The most frightening things we experience in our own heads are actually survival mechanisms.
That is the ultimate context. That's what we have to keep in mind. This involuntary, often deeply uncomfortable process of generating fear is absolutely essential. The sources make a really compelling case for this.
What's the case?
Well, if a person felt no fear, if that threat simulation system was absent or broken, there would be nothing to stop them from making fatal, life-ending mistakes. The necessary neurochemical response to danger just wouldn't be there.
It's the ultimate evolutionary insurance policy. The brain scares you not because you're in danger right now, but to practice keeping you alive if that danger ever materializes. It's tough love on a massive biological scale.
And that shift in perspective is, I think, the biggest payoff here. The next time that intrusive thought strikes, that sudden internal panic, you shouldn't see it as a mental failure or a sign of weakness.
You should see it as your own personal trainer.
Your internal, highly personalized survival trainer running a very efficient, very high-stakes drill. It's a testament to your brain's absolute dedication to keeping you safe.
We're all just walking around with this built-in predictive defense system.
Using a lifetime of fragmented data to prepare us for things we hope will never, ever happen. It's fascinating how our minds will always prioritize readiness over comfort.
And it explains why the fears feel so specific to us.
Because they are. They're constructed entirely from your unique, unconsciously collected data archive. No one else has your specific internal horror movie compilation.
So to summarize what we've unpacked today, these intrusive, terrifying thoughts are the output of the threat simulation system. This is the brain practicing for the absolute worst, using a huge archive of unconsciously stored data sites, sounds, things you overheard to test your physical and psychological reactions.
And the terror itself is the chemical catalyst. It's what's necessary to optimize your response time for actual survival.
Right.
And this brings us to one final, slightly provocative thought, something the source material left us with to carry forward.
What's that?
It's just fascinating to think that sometimes we are most afraid of what our own incredibly complex mind might conjure up next.
Because that fear is simultaneously the most terrifying and the most protective thing we will ever experience.
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing these sources and engaging in this deep dive with us today. Until next time, keep thinking critically about what your brain is trying to tell you.